That's a stretch.
I have
Yes.
live. I'm sure
I
there's
don't see it on Facebook yet.
I totally forgot about it. Okay,
We're live on the government page.
we are live.
Okay.
It's called meeting to order. It's 4 o'clock on Tuesday, March 17th. We have roll call, please.
Katie Williams, here. Paige Bentley, here. Mandy Elder. Francesca Geyer, here. Shirley Lindell, here. Brady McNulty. Marcy Tassano, here. Youth Services Librarian Aurora, here. City Recorder Amy Nice, here. And I'm happy to welcome our two visitors today, Steve Barr and Lance Colley. And we have on Zoom our consultant for the strategic plan, Stephanie Chase.
We have, couple of minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. And, I guess it's time for the strategic plan. Stephanie, you're up.
So fast. Thank you so much, everybody. It's so nice to see so many members of our planning team here. Let me bring up my screen just so that we can walk through this together. I always have too many tabs open, so let me get the right one up for everybody. All right. So we're here just to give a kind of a brief overview and then have some good discussion time at whatever discussion the board is looking for around what we developed as part of the strategic planning team. So just as a quick overview, we started working on the plan in October, and the project was led by our strategic planning team. So we'll highlight them in just a minute. And then I really helped facilitate those conversations. So what was in your packet, the end product was really collaboratively developed by the strategic planning team and really is built on the expertise and the contributions of the members of that team. And then because people are always interested, we just wanted to highlight a little bit about the community engagement we did. We really made sure to try to do that through a variety of forms so that people could engage in different ways. Also acknowledging that some of this was happening or needed to happen before the holidays. So we did take, I suppose, a little break a bit as a strategic planning team between kind of the Thanksgiving and New Year holidays. It's a hard time to get engagement. So a lot of it happened before that, and we did a little bit of follow-up after. Our engagement really focused on a community survey, which was very successful. We had over 350 responses, and it was really demographically representative. A lot of times when we talk about surveys, community surveys for libraries, we tend to see a really distinct patron profile in that survey. And your strategic planning team worked really, really hard to have that survey really represent a very, very broad range of the community. So unlike other communities where we might see particularly a lot of over-representation in some areas, your survey was really demographically representative. When we compare how many people in some certain demographic areas answered the survey versus what the census says, those percentages were really very close. So that takes a lot of hard work, and I want to thank the strategic planning team in particular for all the work they did to reach out and have that community survey be really successful. Your strategic planning team led 25 member interviews with community members. So that was done by your strategic planning team. We held now, it feels like a long time ago, a focus group with you all. And then we had multiple opportunities for self-directed engagement. So we did that at the book sale. There were opportunities at multiple elementary schools and in the library itself. So again, really seeking to think about how could we hear more, in particular from the youth in our community. And so a big shout out to Aurora for the work that she did to get that all running as well. And so, Chris, I thought that you might like to just, I'd hand it over to you for a second so you can give a thanks to your big planning team.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Couldn't do it without the dedication of this group of folks, and almost everybody is in the room. Paige is here, Steve, Lance, Amy, and Marcy. Andrea was our outgoing library commission chair, and then Aurora and I. So thank you all for your dedication to this. It was great to have some folks who were during the first strategic planning process, and great to have new voices as well.
So I hope that you all will join me and Chris in a round of applause for them. They really did work hard. Okay, thank you all so much. And so just a little bit before we look at the plan itself, I think that we may have touched on this at the beginning. I often do at the beginning when we do a focus group. And we talked about this as well at the strategic planning team level. So just to make sure that we're all on kind of the same page about what it is that we actually developed and how what we developed will be used. So I think a good reminder is that a strategic plan is really an internal tool. It's really intended to help the staff and stakeholders, so like you as board members, really understand and clarify the direction and the areas of focus or where you'll be investing for growth. So it really is a document, a plan that highlights what an organization is focusing on. So what your priorities are for the next 5 years. It's not intended to cover everything an organization does. So every day the library is doing programming, it's circulating materials, it's engaging with people in the community. All of that work continues. What the strategic plan is really highlighting is where you're going to be investing your resources. So whether that's time, staff time, volunteer time, stakeholder time, where you might be looking to really strengthen or maintain, where if you got a wonderful big gift, you would know right where you would invest it, where if things were tough, what you've really prioritized and you're going to seek to really maintain. So I think that's what's really important to remember is that it is highlighting where you as an organization are going to focus your efforts for the next 5 years, not intended to cover everything. And that's in part because we need the strategic plan to really be flexible enough to respond to changing needs from the community. The pandemic is such a great example. If you completed a strategic plan that was really not flexible, pretty rigid, had laid out kind of steps month by month or year by year steps, if you did that and completed it in January or February 2020, you'd have to throw it away. It would be so specific that with such a change, you wouldn't be able to flex. But when we really think at a higher level, for example, if you had really said in a strategic plan, your goal was to meet patrons at their point of need, then that would be highly able to do that during that time, during the pandemic when we were closed. So we really balance that kind of higher level focused areas with more detailed work plans. We'll talk about that in a second. With a strategic plan, I often really talk about it having 2 elements. So the first kind of element being those really foundational statements. In our plan, that's the mission statement and the core values. Our mission statement, you'll see in a second, we talked about and decided to keep the same. We felt that it was really resonant. And then our core values we worked on with the strategic planning team and then did some work and got some feedback from the staff as well. And those 2 statements are really intended to express what is really important, what's very inherent to the organization. It really feels like these statements should really describe the personality or the character of an organization. And while the language might change, they should fundamentally be expressing the same kind of thing. Mission statements, go through these phases. I think some of us in this room have been in phases where they're very long. They're back to being, really short and concise. But whether it's long or short, it should still really be expressing something very fundamental. So those kind of 2 fundamental pieces. And then what does change from plan to plan are the strategic priorities and the goals. So you can think again, those strategic priorities are what you're focusing on, in particular, what you're focusing on to really support the mission. If the mission is kind of why you exist, what you're here to do, what's essential about your work, then your priorities are what you're doing to really make that mission come to life. And then a step more specific are your goals. So a little bit more direction about how you're going to work to support the priorities. And in your goals, it's really nice to have each of them kind of paired with a sense of how you're going to measure their success or metrics or a sense of what your expectations are. A lot of times this comes out in the annual action planning process. So that piece where we get to what's really happening, really best practice is to do that on an annual basis. So to ask yourself this year, what are we doing to meet the goals, to prioritize our priorities, to make our mission happen, so that work is done really closely with what context is happening around you, environmentally, within your community, societally, and also what's really available to you as resource. So a lot of times I recommend that this annual action plan be done as part of the budgeting process, so that you all will get to see this as a sense of what do we need more resources for. And as Chris communicates to you about what's, she's really been planning, or what the library is going to be planning to do for the next year, and what kind of resources or support that might need, that's where you really start to see some specifics. Now, of course, specifics come up while we're developing the plan. And I think Aurora and Chris in particular, you probably have some ideas that you can share as examples if the board's curious about what did come up during the strategic planning process. But more to come on those pieces about kind of specifically what you're going to be doing over the next year to make the plan happen, and then how you'll measure your success there. Are there any questions just kind of about this overview before we look at the plan in detail? Looks like no. All right. So again, the goal is a strategic plan that fits on one page. So I think sometimes it can be hard to feel like we did all this work to try to get it, and we got it to fit on the front. So one side of one page. And why this is great is because this becomes something that we can really, really use on an everyday basis. So staff can have this kind of, posted up on a bulletin board or near their cube, or you all as board members can have this right as kind of the first page in your binder for your trustees binder. When we have something that fits on a page, it's something that we can use. It's something that we can really incorporate to our daily life. And so I'm really proud of Roseburg of being able to fit it on the front of one page. Not everybody can do this. And so you don't even have to flip it when it is posted on your bulletin board. And so again, just really highlighting those mission, the core values, and the plan priorities and goals. And so I have these on slides kind of pulled out just so they're a little bit bigger to see, but all of the language that are on the slides is the same as what you see here in this handout, and the handout that was in your packet, if I'm remembering correctly. Chris, you put this in the packet. So when we review the plan, again, we start with the mission statement. So the mission of the Roseburg Public Library is promote community, inspire curiosity, and encourage learning. That is this mission statement that was developed during your last strategic planning process. And the strategic planning team and Chris and Aurora and the staff felt that it was really a very good mission statement, really still very reflective, no need for changes, that it has been successful and is already incorporated into kind of posters and materials and other things that you're already highlighting. You can see it, it's if we remember right up there, community, curiosity, and learning already incorporated into your logo. So we really wanted to keep that the same. So again, that is great. It's great to have a mission statement that doesn't need to kind of be tweaked or rewritten or adjusted, but that we did have conversation around it. And so that was a very deliberate choice. And then where we did spend time really as an SPT was with our core values. So in really thinking about what perspectives are we really bringing to the work that we're doing. A great way to think about the core values is if I were thinking about applying for a job at the library, I was thinking about becoming a board member, I was thinking about wanting to support the library. When I look at the core values, I should be able to see, is this an organization that really fits with me? Are our values in alignment? So we developed 4 core values: people first, reliable and relevant, discovery, and joy. And we had a lot of conversation about this, really wanting to make sure that they really reflected the organization. We spent a lot of time talking about joy. And then what was really important to us is we wanted to have a descriptor, so some sense of what we really mean by these words. We're also really thoughtful about what order we put them in. So really being deliberate about starting with people first. So that it's a core value for the library, that the library is about more than books. We cultivate a compelling and safe space, welcome all community members, and seek to collaborate with community partners. So really describing an approach. The second core value of being reliable and relevant, so that our library is a constant in the community. So again, we spent time talking about this and really thinking about the history of the library in the community and the county as a whole. So really wanting to emphasize that the library is important and is a constant. Discovery, Our library connects people with ideas, information, and experiences that foster exploration and lifelong learning. So this was a core value that was really further shaped by the staff and with some more feedback from the strategic planning team. But so that sense of what you really can explore and the perspective that we're taking as we think about how community members explore the library. And then the last core value, joy. Our library evokes wonder for all. So before I move on, just want to see if there's anybody from the strategic planning team that has anything they want to offer about the core values in particular, and if there are any questions.
Why? Well, it's pretty obvious why we put people first, because that's the way that this library operates. They're two excellent professional librarians, so that's where it belongs.
I think that we spent a lot of time going from a big, broad, 30,000 foot view to try to narrow this down to what really were the core values. And so the process that Stephanie led us through, not by telling us what we needed to pick, but by narrowing it down and getting it really to 4 or 5 things that we can put our finger on and say, you know, if somebody walks in here, what do we want them to know? And we did spend a lot of time on this particular area before we started trying to put together goals. And so I think there was a lot of value in that. I think everybody in the room, you know, we were a little scattered to start with, you know, because we all threw out something. And then really were able to narrow it down. And I think it was a really good process to go through before trying to put goals together, because we wanted to know what do we really value before we started looking at, okay, what goals do we want to set to get us there?
Mm.
And I thought it was a really interesting process.
And a thought just came to me with the discovery core value, and this library offers opportunities to people. It can be, you know, from a child to somebody as old as I am, but there are opportunities that are available for anybody who walks into the door to take advantage of.
Just so
Yep.
you two, are the only ones talking, I would just like to add in, it was an amazing process. I would also say that I'm very proud of everything on this single sheet of paper. I feel like the words have meaning and weight and reflect the thoughtfulness. And it's not just a fluffy page. And so I'm very proud of that.
And hopefully it's a
Nice.
good working document for our librarians to
Yeah.
do the work for the next 5 years.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think Stephanie did a great job kind of guiding us through that in a good way, but we were very collaborative. It wasn't just like Lance said, okay, pick out of these things, what do you guys pick? Like we made this through our own collaboration and what was important with us. And it was a fun process. I've never done anything like it, so I appreciate being a part of it. It's been fun. I'm proud of it. So.
I apologize for not being able to participate in the last intense meeting due to illness, but I'm very impressed with the conclusion that was come up with. I was able to participate in all the early part with all of the interviews and everything, and to be able to coalesce all of that information from the community, as well as the people who work here and volunteer here. This is really quite amazing and very thoughtful and inclusive and very well done, I think. Thank you, you guys.
Yeah, the team did awesome. They did awesome. Thank you so much for celebrating each other in that way. So I think too, that piece of like how really doing this work first, so we can think about our mission and our core values as we were thinking about what we are really going to focus on. So let's just look at those plan priorities. as board members, this might be kind of where, these are the four that I would recommend. I would recommend making sure you know your mission statement and knowing your core values. If you don't know what the sentences are, that's okay, but can you name the core values? And then being able to know what these four plan priorities are. Even if you don't necessarily kind of memorize the language, to know that what this group really came up with are the four areas that are really important to focus on for the next 5 years are to ensure sustainable support for library operations, to honor the library's unique role in the Roseburg community, to promote the library's resources, and to enhance library services beyond the building. As stakeholders, we hope that these will really help you when people say, what's up with the library? What's the library focusing on? In conversations you have where people might want to be giving support to the library, that you can really use these plan priorities to talk about where the library is really investing. So again, it's like little homework for Chris and Aurora, but then for each of you, as board members, those would be the things that I would work on trying to recall. So when you're having conversations about the library, you can really pull those out and give a strong sense of what the library is really focusing on. And then, of course, each of these four priorities have a set of goals. And one of the things that I try to work on really hard, and again, I think I shared a little bit about myself when we did the board focus group, but I come from a background in rural librarianship. I come from a background where I've spent time as a director as well. And a lot of what I try to do is to make sure that we're not giving ourselves too much to do. There's a sense of there are so many great ideas, so many wonderful things that come out of the process. How do we really make sure that we're highlighting what is really going to have the most impact at the time that we're talking about? And that is really reflective and thoughtful about our resources. And so before we look at those goals, the thing that I want to really just emphasize is that the strategic planning team really did have a lot of conversation about the capacity of the organization. When you look at this plan, it really is highlighting, again, what an organization that is operating very efficiently at a high level with a lot of trust and support and respect from the community, what they're capable of doing without more resource. So I think that's why very deliberately this was put first as the and again, people often look when you look at things in order, is it most to least important? And then we're not necessarily saying this here, but we are saying that ensuring sustainable support for library operations is the thing that has to happen in order for everything else to flow. So you'll see again, the language is deliberately at a higher level, right? So the first goal is to secure the resources necessary to best support the library's services. Again, how this looks year to year might depend. There might be an action item where this is about a budget increase, about adding a staff member. It might be a year where there's about what kind of networking or socializing or conversation or awareness building you're going to have around that. But recognizing that making sure that the library has the support it needs and the resources it needs for its services is really an ongoing project. The second goal was to maintain an economically priced card for library users outside of Roseburg. This is another one we had a lot of conversation about. I think for those of you on the board, that's not a surprise. Really emphasizing how important it is to invest in the library, to be a supporter of the library. And that if that's not coming through your taxes as someone who's in Roseburg, that we're really asking for you to help do that. But we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that people from outside of Roseburg can still really use the services at the library or access the resources at the library that are necessary to have a card for. The third goal was to assess opportunities for the Roseburg community through strategic regional library partnerships. So there are regional supports that are happening in and around your community. Chris is the president of the Southern Oregon Library Federation. That's a strategic regional library partnership that exists. Just to your north, the Lane Council of Librarians exists. So there are these support groups that exist within your region. And so this goal was really saying where it makes sense, we might want to explore where collaborating and partnering would have benefit for the Roseburg community. So again, how that might look year to year could change. And then the fourth goal for this particular priority was to develop a rubric for evaluating existing and potential partnerships and collaborations. So again, recognizing that you cannot say yes to every great partnership idea. You don't necessarily have the resources. That partnership, collaboration, volunteer efforts, all of that takes time and resource. So how do we really work on what is highest value. As we think about that prior goal to assess those opportunities for the Roseburg community, really acknowledging that we want to develop a tool to do that. So again, when we're thinking about the flow of these goals, one of the things that might happen early, a goal that might get crossed off early, is about developing this rubric so you can use it to assess your opportunities for the community. You can use it to highlight where you might need more resources or where there are those opportunities. Chris, do you think that you want me to go priority to priority, or do you want to stop after each priority and see if there's any questions?
Let's stop at
Okay.
each one. It's a lot of information.
Yes, it is. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but a comment on this. One of the things that the team really looked hard at was when you're looking at collaboration and partnerships, to make sure that the Roseburg Public Library benefits from all of those things. A lot of people want the library to partner with them so they can benefit. We need to be strategic about those things, and we want other people to benefit, but first and foremost, the library needs to benefit from any of those potential partnerships and collaborations, so that we're getting a return on the investment as well as other folks. So I think it's important, because that might be a question, when city council looks at this, or when community members look at it. Really important to understand that, the library needs to benefit first and foremost, as well as others. That shut down the room.
Yeah, I mean, great. People are really thinking about it. We can always come back as well. So then I think we look at that second priority. So that priority to really honor the library's unique role in the Roseburg community. This really comes out of, I think, the very, very strong feedback we had, again, of that trust, that respect, the enjoyment, the love that people have for the community. For team members, I think for a lot of us reading through those interviews where people consistently highlighted the important role, how just indispensable they feel the library is for community connection, how much they value being able to see so many different parts of their community in the library, that the library is so well used, that the library is a safe and welcoming space, that there really is something that the community sees so strongly in the library, and to really, again, and to choose that word, to honor it. So this is a priority with 5 goals. So the first goal, to ensure strong, visible support for the City Council's existing public safety and livability goal, and focus on overall quality of life. So again, very clearly saying the library is here to support what City Council has highlighted as a priority as well. And again, on an annual basis, the library, with the intention of being able to report out, this is when we report out what we've done on this goal, it will also very then clearly roll into, this is how we're supporting what the City Council has said is a priority. So how does the library contribute to the quality of life? What is the library doing to contribute to livability in particular? So again, really making a deliberate call out of that the library is a supporter and will continue to be a supporter of what the City Council has highlighted as a priority. The second goal is celebrate the library's 10th anniversary beginning in January 2029. So this is an example of something, this would happen whether it's in the plan or not, but by highlighting it as a goal, we acknowledge its importance. We acknowledge that it will take resource, it will take time and attention to do it right. So really making sure that we're celebrating that 10th anniversary. The third goal, through programs and displays, actively showcase our local business community at the library. I think this touches into that kind of that previous piece where we're talking about there's a lot of interest in working together with the library, but at what depth is that? Is that really at a collaborative and partnership active, level? Is that really at a a quid pro quo level? Or is it through something that might feel a little bit more one-sided, where the library might be highlighting something that exists? So through a program or through a display, really helping to showcase what's happening in the community. And I think this kind of came from some of the conversations that strategic planning team members had with local businesses and with community members, and the opportunities they see as for the library. And no surprise, is really a great place to learn more about the community. The fourth goal is to increase the visibility of and celebrate the library's work with youth. This is something, again, from every kind of engagement opportunity, such awareness and recognition and pride in how much the library does for the young people in the community, and the quality and consistency and number of programs and opportunities for your youth. So really wanting to also celebrate that. This is not necessarily a goal that is about doing more. Aurora is probably doing what she can. This is about really making sure people know what's happening at the library and that the library is celebrated for this role that it plays. So an example of an action item here might be the board next year when the Oregon Library Association awards come out, really thinking about maybe what you'd like to highlight as a program or work that Aurora herself has done. So to really celebrate what's really happening, because there's so much support really expressed for this already. And I'm sure Aurora is feeling embarrassed and is red, but we're just going to celebrate work with youth for the next 5 years. And then the last goal, to provide resources to support our most vulnerable community members in their use of the library. So recognizing that we have community members that really do face barriers in accessing the library and the library's resources, particularly the physical space. And then also recognizing that the library is viewed as a safe space, as a place where people who are facing challenges can come and use the library. And in one-on-one interviews, this came up a lot about the admiration and the respect for the library as being there for people who are going through challenging times and who are maybe would be left behind or who are being left behind in other places. That the library is deliberate in their outreach and really welcoming in that, and how proud people were that that was the case. So I'll stop here for any comments or questions.
I like the outreach element of it. I think that's really important. There's a lot of people out there who are glad that the library is here, but they have no idea what it does. And so putting ourselves out there is a good idea too, but finding the people that are prohibited from participating for other reasons, physical, age, transportation, whatever the hindrances are, I think that outreach is really important, and I'm really glad it's in there.
Yeah. I think that is such also a good segue into the next goal, which is really about the next priority, about promoting the library's resources. So again, I think very much recognizing people already know how much the library does. They're so proud of what the library does. Really not a lot of requests, right, for more, but really about the opportunity to build awareness, raise awareness, and make sure more people know what's happening at the library. So if we deliberately made a priority, so again, not about adding things, but about celebrating, promoting, building awareness for what's already happening at the library. So 5 goals for this priority as well. So to regularly review the library's communication tools for reach and impact. So this was something that came up through the planning process when we noticed where did we get kind of input or feedback? Where did we see bumps when we asked for it through different tools? We also asked specifically a question in the survey about how people find out what's happening at the library. So recognizing if we're in a space where staff time needs to be really thoughtfully used, we might be using time on things that don't have the reach or the impact that we're looking for. And maybe it would be better to repurpose that time elsewhere. The second goal, to develop and implement a communication plan specifically for the library's Facebook page. Again, in the survey, when we asked people about how they find out what's happening at the library, in the survey, we had a very substantial response from outside Roseburg. We had a very substantial response for people who don't have a library card. And regardless of whether they were in and out of Roseburg, a library card holder or not, and their age, The Facebook page was by far the #1 way they were finding out about what was happening at the library. And so that's just done now, again, very well. Obviously, it's working, but because it's so important, it is the most successful and used tool to really make a plan for it, and acknowledging that that takes time and effort. The third goal, to pilot a monthly library podcast or program on KQUA. So this is something that I think had already been kind of bubbling up but really an opportunity, again, such a great opportunity to promote the library's resources in a different way and perhaps to a different audience. The fourth goal, to establish and implement a promotion plan for the library's digital collections. So again, this came out of engagement work we did and some specific questions we asked in the survey around what people knew about, and that we were surprised at the kind of low awareness level in general around Libby and around Cloud Library. And so as we look at those collections and investment in those collections, how do we really promote them so that people know that they exist, again, without overburdening or making a big negative impact on our budget. And then the last goal, to promote and continue to develop the Spanish language collection. So again, a collection right now that has low awareness, and that so could benefit from additional awareness, and where you could make investments without a significant amount of staff effort by really continuing to develop along the path that you already are developing. So again, I'll pause here if there are any questions or comments.
I think all of this slide illustrates is we can have all the resources, we have a lot of resources, we can have all the resources in the world, but there is a whole nother piece to it, and it's letting people know we have these resources, or doing the work to let people know we have these resources. And that part of it is far more time consuming than I've ever thought until I started doing that.
Yep. Right. It's easy to add it. It's hard to continue to promote it. All right. And then the last one, to enhance library services beyond the building. So again, this piece, right, about really when we think about outreach, when we think about the library's presence outside of the physical walls, what are we looking to really invest in? So 4 goal areas. So 1, to explore grant and fundraising opportunities to support the large print collection. So really thinking about the seniors in our community and the needs they have. And again, this is a spot where our current funding doesn't allow us to meet the need that's expressed. The second goal, to increase awareness of the library's services to the homebound. So again, an existing program that has the opportunity for more use really can help folks who have temporary or permanent barriers to accessing the library. The third goal, to develop a pilot project to explore using remote lockers for Holtz pickup. This again was something we really explored, particularly in the survey, but also engagement. What really were barriers to people using the library? What would they be interested in exploring? This one had a high level of interest across age groups. And that pilot project, one of the benefits is we don't have to have a response to this. We have such a sense of interest that we could run a pilot. How does it work here? How does it work if we tweak this? What really needs to happen to make this be as effective as possible? So not something that we need to say, implement remote hold locker or pickup by X date, but that we really want to develop a pilot project that meets the needs that people are expressing. And then the fourth goal, to expand the use of student library cards for the elementary schools in the Roseburg School District geographic area. This is an existing project, an existing program that has a very high level of adoption in some schools and is much more challenged in others. It's really limited by a staff capacity on both sides. And so really saying over the next 5 years, we really want to work to change that number. So again, this is one where it may not be expressed here. We didn't say expand by X%, but that we can see here in 2026, what's the level of adoption now? And as we do different things over each year, maybe trying a different method, a different kind of outreach, how do we really make this so more students are taking advantage of the card access they have to the library? So that's the last priority and the last goal. So I'll pause here if there are any questions, and then I'll stop sharing my screen and see if there are any other further questions.
This all feels very manageable. to both of us, and that's what I appreciated through the process is, the other folks, who were in the room with us were really cognizant to take our perspective, into consideration. That, that recognition that, there is a cap on what we can do, and we can do this. This feels really good to us.
If it doesn't work for you two, it's not gonna work. So.
Yeah, so again, thank you all so much for allowing me to kind of share a little bit more about what went into developing the plan. Really, I hope highlighting and celebrating the work of the strategic planning team. It was really such a pleasure to get to work with such a great team. And I'll hand it back over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any final questions for Stephanie today?
I would like to thank Stephanie for all her work and for her engaging personality and able to, herd all the rattlesnakes.
I had
There
a
were a
great
lot-
time. I had a great time.
Yeah, a lot of ideas that she brought us together and said, you can narrow this to 4 or 5 core values. We made it 5 because we put 2 words together on that. She gave us some leeway on that. Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's been such a joy. We finally got to meet. We've known each other for years now. And it took this process for us to meet in person.
It's hard when in this big geographic state, right? So.
And so what happens now is discussion among you as the library commission and whether you want to recommend that the city council adopt this strategic plan for us.
I was confused by that. Is that a thing that the city council has to do is
Yes.
to adopt the? Right, and do they do that for the other departments as well? Do they have strategic plans as well?
They call them master plans,
Oh,
depending on what the project is.
I'm just completely unaware of the,
Yeah, there's a
how that all
park,
works. Yeah.
yeah,
that's
there's a
great.
park master plan, there's a
Yeah.
water master plan.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very. I think that this is, really quality work and I would be proud to present it to the council.
I do have a suggested motion. If
Oh. It's in here somewhere, I'm sure.
When? It's not here, but you want them to make it, okay? I move that the library commission recommends city council approve the adoption and implementation of the 2026-2030 Roseburg Public Libraries strategic plan.
Second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Mandy, I see your hand there. Thank you so much. That was a 6-month process, so it's just really good to get this settled for the next 5 years. The plan is to present this to the city council in May. And I will let everybody here know when the date is set.
Congratulations, everybody. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this process. I had such a great time. And thank you so much, Chris and Aurora, for everything that you do for the community.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you.
So before you go to the next agenda item, I'd just like to say, I really appreciated being invited back to participate in this. This is an advocacy document, and one of the things that we all talked about, members of the board, library commission, people on the team. The library, with the people that you have, is doing an incredible job and has probably maxed out. And I know that Chris just said these things are doable. These things are doable, but some of the things that we talked about and the sustainability plan for the future is going to need to add resources and add staff. And I think it's an important advocacy document for city council to be able to say, hey, look at the great things the library has been doing. There is more that we would like to do, and that's encompassed in the strategic plan. But it also means that we need to, and hopefully the library commission and our city council can advocate in future budget processes to make sure that some of these things can be advanced. Part of that was additional staff at the youth, children's level, and then down the road, an additional staff person, library general. We can't do more with less. And we understand as part of our process, when we were talking about this, that we were making recommendations that were going to require more resources. Resources are limited. We know that. But the library has carved out a place in our community that is something that the city doesn't have any other opportunity to do. And that is welcome people in and do things for them that they want to come and see. And many of the people don't even know that it's available. But throughout the survey information and throughout our conversations, it kept coming back to, this is a place where people can come. And it's the only, I mean, Parks and Rec does a lot of things that people like to go and do, but it's not the same. It's not a direct service. A lot of those are indirect services. We provide a place, you come and do what you want to do. This is a place where you can come and you can explore and you can work with Chris and Aurora and the volunteers and the team. And it's just, I think it's important that when this goes to city council, that they understand this is not just a 5-year plan, but it's also an advocacy document for the budget process. We're probably too late for this year, because they're deep in it, but in the future, you know, a year from now, we'll want to make sure that this is still front and center when the library commission and your library team of professionals talks about what do we need to put in the next time. And can folks continue to advocate for that? Because what are we in years? Since this restart took place and we just really hope that this can be on a poster and can be on people's mind front and center as the folks continue to, I think, provide one of the highest levels of service that a library could.
Do you think that the people who are going to be making the decision on this, with the city government or whatever, are aware of all the things that we talked about here, that they know that the programs we have, they know the number of people are here, they know the services like to the who are homebound and that kind of thing? Are they aware of all that kind of thing, or is there going to need to be some education so that they're aware, other than just what's presented in this and what's presented in a program?
Well, Katie's one of
I'm
those
here.
decision makers.
But, you know, after our meetings, I do talk about what we've talked about in here. So to the city council.
But there's a lot of stuff that goes with this, that's presented in meetings that people can, yeah, that's really nice. But do they really grasp have they been in the library, for instance, to see what's happening and to see the bulletin boards, and are they aware of the number of kids that come into the library, or the old people, or the whatever it is?
You know, I don't think so much specifically, but I think Chris and I have been working pretty hard to get more information to the council during the meetings, like we get together and like, what do you really want me to get out there and say this time? So we've been working on that.
The presentation that you get every fall about the annual report is shared verbatim with the city council. They give me 15 to 20 minutes, good questions. There's a recognition. I don't talk every month about the library, but when we do have things coming up, I take the opportunity to share with them. We have, next meeting is the, what is it called? Proclamation.
Yes.
National Library Week proclamation, which is always another opportunity for me to tell them about the numbers, about the value of the library, and I make sure I take my few minutes to share with them about that. I can tell you from an administrative level, the team absolutely knows the work that we do. My boss is the city manager, Lance, and now Nikki. No, we meet twice a month. They absolutely know. I think all the department heads here, but we meet every week as a team. And we get the opportunity to talk about what each department is doing. So from an administrative level, there is 100% support for the work that the library does. Now, we all recognize we are part of one organization. And we all feel that we've reached capacity in many ways. But there's just a level of respect among all of us, and wonderful support at the very top from our city managers. I say managers, Lance and it's been a great experience.
And one of the things we talked about at the planning team was, having, some tours. So that city council could be invited down to
Good idea.
tour, and you don't just have one, because not everybody can make one, but, and just see, because I can tell you every time, people come in, they're really amazed at what the library just looks like and what the feel is, and walking into the children's library and, being able to touch stuff makes a big difference, walking in and seeing it. And so,
And I can say, anytime we have council retreats or training or things like that, oftentimes we use this space. We use the public safety center. We're
showcasing the spaces we have
correct.
in the city.
Yes, so even when we don't have the tours, or the council does get an opportunity to see the spaces. I think tours are way funner, but we do get to use the space and the beautifully maintained and cared for resources that this community has provided.
And how much they're able to accomplish
Yes,
without much financial backing.
yes.
I wonder, would it be too much to add? Little tour before this goes on the agenda?
I can definitely have discussions.
Like we did, at Grove. We went there and just throwing that out there.
Okay,
But if it's too much, that's okay.
I'll take it back to the powers that be.
Okay. I'm so smart sometimes. Okay. Is there anything else about the strategic plan that we want to talk about? Okay. Thank you to Stephanie for doing this, to everybody on this strategic planning committee. You guys did great work. And now for business from the commission. Anybody have business?
The Friends of the Library, had their spring sale a couple of weeks ago, and we made, over $2,600, which is pretty good since the books are 50 cents and 25 cents. Very well subscribed, lots of people here, lots of kids, it was great. We got $227 worth of donations for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And on Saturday, all the books were free, and so we got over $500, on free day, which is, the way it works. Sometimes we make more with the free books than we do trying to sell them. So that was really nice. Also this morning, the Friends of the Library held their, annual general meeting. The board was here, and we had a few other members of the Friends, attending. We elected our officers, which are the same officers that we had before, but we all know what we're doing. We also approved and adopted new bylaws. We've been operating under the old bylaws from the Douglas County Friends of the Library. So now we have the proper name on there. We have a new format and legal format and reference to all of the required statutes and all for a nonprofit organization. So we've hit the big time on that. We've also changed our membership to not require any dues for our membership, so anyone can join just by providing us their contact information. And so we were happy to have that done this morning.
Anything else with this? Okay, our next meeting date will be April 21st. Same time, same place. And Chris, turn it over to you.
Thanks. In your packet are the monthly statistics. I'm gonna look at my notes for just a second. We issued 182 cards in February, and a lot of that was because of the Green Elementary students who visited the library. Warren did tours and gave them a rundown of the catalog, and 2 of the 3 did scavenger hunts. And it's always a lot of fun to see the kids, a lot of energy there. With our circulation, 64% was physical materials, and then our digital materials continue to do very well. We're back to, I would think, status quo now, back to, I guess, usual operations with Ingram processing materials. So that's gonna help get things on the shelves quicker. That was a rough 8 months, but we got through it. We're almost done processing the books that we did not have them process. And we're back to purchasing items on a very stable basis. You can see we purchased the same number of books in January and February, 326. Happy to answer any questions about the statistics. Okay, I will move on to programming. Tonight, that's why we're set up here. Tonight we'll have Romeo's author Lila Sage on Zoom. People will be here in person and get free books. And thank you to Aurora for managing the program. This was rescheduled after the author was ill in November. We were glad she was able to do so. She's hit the big time. And it's pretty cool that we're able to talk to her. We have coming up more Libraries Transforming Communities for adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities. The movie is next week. That is their very favorite program every month. And I was thrilled that last week they came to hear ventriloquist Steve Cheney. He's local, a great guy. We've been working with him since we opened. And it was our biggest turnout yet. We had 47 people in the room. It was just a wonderful experience. Next month is the last main performer that we have coming in. It's Seth Howard. He's a magician and mind reader. We'll continue with our movies every month, and we'll see what happens with that programming down the road. the Magician and Mind Reader is gonna do a program for the general public. Since he's coming from Astoria, we wanted to get an extra program out of him, and so that's April 9th at 6:30. You can see all of our programs at roseburgpubliclibrary.org. And Aurora is continuing to do so much. You'll see her statistics for the month, at the back of your packet, and she has a lot more coming up. Her programs run through, this third week of April, and then we're done. We are going to the Oregon Library Association conference, and then Aurora's, getting the final plans in place for the summer reading program, which starts June 1st. But she has a lot before all of that ends.
Yes, we still have the rest of March and April programming. A fun thing that's happening right now is the In-N-Out restaurant has a reading program for kids age 4 to 11. So we are doing that In-N-Out reading challenge right now. They can read 5 hours or 5 books to win a free burger. They can do that up to 3 times. We have that at the front desk that we're handing out to children. And I contacted I think all of the elementary schools in Roseburg, and a couple outside of Roseburg. And they are also facilitating that there for their kids, who don't have transportation to come into the library, to get that.
And, it is on our website, so people can just download and print the forms. And they do have to bring them in, because we have the gift card for the burger.
Yes, yeah, forms do need to come back to us to get that gift card. If you bring it to In-N-Out, they're gonna be like, great, I'm not giving you anything. So come to us and we'll give it to you. But so thank you to them for sending that to us and helping encourage reading for children in the area. Story times are still going strong. We had baby story time today and kids elementary programming. We had, I think, 4 at our book club that happened last week. Had a great time talking about dragons and reading and doing a dragon related craft. We have our green elementary tours. I still have another tour coming up with Golden Woodward. I think they're from Fullerton, the 3rd grade class, that's what I remember, it's the 3rd graders. That will come again. We'll talk about catalog, tour the library, get library cards for all the students that don't have one yet. Any questions?
I think it's important to share that, last year Aurora changed one of the Thursday programs to after work for people. And it's brought in an entirely different crew of people. Last time you did it with Legos.
Yep.
Now it's STEAM programming, and completely different people come to that. So it's been successful, and I would think, the wrap up in April and May, ends up being a conversation about what we do next fall. But I think that 5:30 PM to 6:30 PM program on one Thursday a month, will continue.
Yeah, that has gone well. Having that later opportunity for parents who are working to come in after or who just have too many other earlier activities in the day, so getting a chance to interact with the library. Gone well.
Yes.
And another program that has really taken off is the Saturday once a month chess club, which I've been to all of them except for one, because I was out of town, but I think each month, the number of people who have shown up is increased, and it's really fun, because you have the kids, it's always good to see them learning how to play chess, and other people who have been playing a long time.
Truly an intergenerational program. You'll see kids 9 years old and you'll see seniors 89 years old. It's amazing. And last one, I think there were 24 people. That's gonna continue through the summer. We'll be off July 4th because that's a Saturday. The program will continue through the summer months. And thank you to Gabby Allen, she's our library aide who manages that program. Any other questions or thoughts about programming? Right, Grants reports have settled down. We did apply for C. Giles Hunt money that is for digital and physical materials for the collection. And Aurora did submit the Douglas County Cultural Coalition grant for summer reading program performers. We should hear about that one very soon. C. Giles Hunt, anywhere from May to August. We should hear about that.
Okay, anybody have anything else? We will adjourn at 5:03. We'll see you all next month.